It was on a Wednesday in late summer, a few hours past midnight, when I awoke with a strange feeling of urgency, as if some great event was at my doorstep. I didn't know what it was that drove me. I simply had an undeniable feeling that I needed to get up. This impulse, though vague, was driven by two distinct thoughts. The first being that a momentous occasion was upon me, and the second that this was not in any way a good thing. It was with these primal impulses of dreadful importance that I roused myself, stumbling down the hallway to the short staircase that would lead me to the living room. Half dazed with lingering sleep, I was compelled by instinct, still too far in my dream state to ask why it was that I traveled so. It wasn't a long journey, but for some reason it felt like it took ages to reach the living room. Perhaps it was the darkness of the house being shut down for the night, the lack of light making each step forward a gamble in safety. Or maybe it was that I was still truly dreaming. Time moves funny in dreamland, right? For whatever reason, I felt that getting to the living room took far longer than it should, but eventually I got there, crossing the space to the large windows facing down the street to the rest of the town below. From my vantage, things seemed pretty calm at first. Not much went on in town this late on a weekday, as all the churchgoers were long in bed and all the drunks were all passed out. Yet, as I stared out the window, I became witness to a menacing event. Just a block down the street, at an intersection with one of the town's main roads, I saw people emerging from the shadows. They moved forward, almost imperceptibly, to surround the crossroads. In truth, they didn't seem to move forward so much as there was a sense of motion, and that perhaps the landscape pulled away from them to bring them forth. They all seemed focused on the center of the intersection, as if looking at a singular figure who I couldn't see. Though the streetlight above lit the road sufficiently, not one of the people were brightened by it. All of them were as dark and indistinct as the shadows they'd emerged from. While their forms seemed unclear, I could, for some reason, sense from them a palpable air of malice. Perhaps it was subtle hints in their postures that gave rise to the belief of intended harm, or perhaps I was simply imagining it. But to my mind, there was little doubt that these figures were there with anger in them, and an intent to act upon it. I suddenly realized that I was gawking at this angry, shadowy mob, and with a panic jolt of self-awareness, I dropped to the floor out of sight. I was fairly certain that they didn't see me, but I was even more certain that if they did so, it would be calamitous. I lay prone for a few minutes, abject fear gripping me at the thought of what might happen if the mob's attention turned toward me. After calming myself, I slowly raised my head to peer out the window. The mob was gone, or to be more precise, they had returned to the dark around them. At first I thought they were still present, but as I stared longer I began to realize that the dark figures which had so threatened before were now simply shadows. What had been an angry mob was now tree trunks, telephone poles, trash cans, or road signs basked in self-occluding darkness. The animus and anger that had given them identity had evaporated, turning them into simple objects of the landscape. As clarity grew in me, I rose from the ground, sat down on the waiting sofa, and breathed a sigh of relief. I often looked down at that corner in speculation of that strange night. Had I imagined it all? I was certain that I'd gone to the living room and didn't dream it. But was that sense of dread and presence real, or purely in my head? I may never know for certain, but if they were real, I hope to God they never saw me staring.